Okay, we're on. That's good. I thought we were going to have to cancel. All right, here we go. Let me see. Oh, okay, there's Pam, Barbara.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
How are you?
Good.
Good, good, good. Okay, cool. So let's start. I have officially been sitting on the Zooms since 9 o'clock this morning. So I'm kind of Zoom fried. So we will proceed with our meeting.
Marianne, I think we just had a spy join.
7:05.
Sarah, was that your son? Who is that?
Oh yeah, I was showing him something on the computer while we were kind of starting. Sorry.
Oh, okay. My kids try to jump on all the time, but they're not closed. They're also two, but yeah, I'm used to that. Sorry, Marianne.
That's okay. No problem. All right. So let's start the meeting Wednesday, February 23rd at 7 p.m. Let's see, the past minutes from our virtual meeting were sent to us by Barbara. Thank you for doing such a great job. Those were pretty intense minutes, a lot of stuff. Do I have a motion for someone to who was at the meeting? So that was either Matt or Sarah or Pam or John or Richard. Do I have a motion from someone to approve the minutes?
I'll approve them.
Okay, Pam. And do I have a second from that group?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Very good. All right.
So, I'm sorry to interrupt. There was just an email from Richard saying that he can see us, but he's not on.
Because he is on the other side.
Maybe he didn't join with his panelist link, maybe.
Yeah, that's probably it. So Richard, we got an email on the 18th. I'll send it to you with the panelist link. Let me send it to you right now. And if you click on that, we will be on our side of the wall. Okay, there you go. There you go. Okay. So, it's kind of new business. Sustainable Trumbull. Wait a minute, is this the same? Yes, goals for 2022. Yeah, okay. So, Sustainable Trumbull, do we have any updates since our last meeting, the end of January? I'm not sure, Pam.
Trying to remember if we met with Vicki just before that or just after that. But we met with Vicki and went over Sustainable Trumbull's priorities, the top 3 or 4 things that we wanted to work on with the department heads, and got, just spent almost a full hour with her, which was great. And so we laid out some high priority things that we wanted to work on, and she was supportive on many of them. So we just need to follow up in the coming days.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, if I recall, there were a couple of things, the community gardens and the QR codes. Okay, so let's just move to the next goals for 2022. These were things that we discussed that this year we were going to dive into. They're pretty definitive things that we can do and submit. The first one is the Native Plant Ordinance. And again, it's Pam. She was going to update our town document you know, rather than working from the state document, which is really overwhelming. It's like pages and pages and pages of text and listing native plants. We found through pollinator pathway and through other means that it's best to have a pretty short list. So Pam worked on updating that. So Pam, I don't know if do you want to share your screen, or is
Sure, I can do that.
okay.
Oops, I just lost it. Hold on a second. Let me do this. And I sent it to you today, Mel, but I know you just said you were on Zooms all day, so I'm sorry if
That's okay. I
just
didn't
to bombard you with more stuff. So can you see my screen?
Yes. Mhm.
So the first 2 pages of the document exist already, or existed already as part of Sustainable Trumbull's Pollinator Pathway land stewardship page. So all I really did, and I'm no designer, was I added a 3rd page to it yesterday and today. Just make it a little smaller if I can. So
This is great.
So what I did was I took Doug Tallamy's top keystone plants for our ecoregion based on number of caterpillars hosted, and made just a very simple table and imported the table into an Adobe, added a page into our existing document. So I haven't posted this to our site because I wanted everyone else to see it before I moved ahead. And I just cribbed, plagiarized, borrowed from the internet, just stock pictures of the different plants. So, and tried to make it as clear as possible. Like a black cherry isn't the black cherry that you get at the supermarket. It's a wild plant that grows here, and this is what it looks like. Here's sweet birch. Here's what a tulip tree looks like when it's blooming, and here's what it looks like after it drops its seed pods, which is a nightmare, but it's a great plant. 2 different kinds of maples, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a just very bare bones, simple document. And if people say, oh, I really wanted to grow that sugar maple, they can go online and search for more information on it. But I didn't know what y'all thought about this direction.
I think I love it's simple, and the version looks familiar. Was this originally from Pollinator Pathway or Aspetuck? Or
Yes.
all of the above? Okay.
It's, yeah. So
I like it.
Pathway and Aspetuck. Yep. And it's the colors are Aspetuck, and then I asked Pam to just adapt it for Trumbull, which is great. So this way we, you know, from town to town and state to state, where there's continuity of what people are being asked to plant. And I agree. I think simple is better. These top trees, like Pam said, are from Doug Tallamy's book. These are we call them keystone species. And the reason they're important is because they, you see the caterpillar species list there. The highest number of caterpillar species use that tree as a host. And why that's important is because of the top right, the chickadees. So if you love birds, you want to get as many of these top trees in your backyard as possible, because they are the host for the caterpillars, and birds need the caterpillars in order to, you know, raise their young. So, you know, it's a connection that I think a lot of people don't make. If they see leaves that are filled with holes, you know, they think they have bugs and they're going to call somebody to spray. That's not what you want. Those leaves are the food. They've always been the food for these pollinators, for the moths and the butterflies. So it's kind of not, I really like this version that Pam did here, because she, you know, adding pictures is pretty important. Pam, if you go to this, roll up to the second page, you'll see there's an insert there. It says trees that provide food for caterpillars. So that's the chart. So what Pam did was take from that chart, and then she brought it down to the 3rd page so people can see pictures.
Yeah, and I was thinking about removing this inset here, but it included shrubs like blueberry, and it has more. So I really, and plus the fact that I was inept at trying to remove it anyway, so I just left it. It seemed to make sense to leave it.
Yeah,
Hey,
I think it's.
Mel, hey, the only thing I would say with the silver maple, it's highly recommended not to plant silver maple in your yards. They're just super brittle, and if they're really planted too close to the house or power lines, they break easily. So
Okay,
I would just substitute it with another maple or whatever else is on the list. Plus,
okay.
they're really not easy to find in the nursery. That's one of the reasons they're really not commercially available. So it turns into be a relatively hazardous tree down the road.
Oh, all right, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So I can see on Talamy's list, he used a general term maple, so, could use red maples. I think, red maples in the, that's in the tree and shrub up here.
Yeah, swamp, like a swamp maple or a
Yeah.
Acer rubrum, something like that. Yeah.
Acer rubrum, the red maple, which is critical for bees as well. So that would be a really good one to put on there.
Yeah, not to be critical. When I see.
No,
something
it's
like
fine.
that-
I'm just thinking because it's already on this list. Is there another maple I could use?
Yeah, use red maple or swamp maple is fine for
maple.
substitute. Yeah.
I have a giant silver maple. I didn't know they were
Well-
the problem.
Well, they're not really recommended to plant in a suburban landscape. So they're, but they've been around. They're fast growers. That's why they were planted years ago. I mean, it's not like they're going to fall down, but they're just they're weak wooded. They're tightly crotched. So they're not in the industry really much for planting anymore.
Yeah, and a lot of his lists included white ash. So we know what's happening with those. And I didn't include ash on here at all.
Right. But other than that, it looks great. The simpler, the better.
Yeah, I think this is great. One suggestion is on this third page, where it says sorted from highest number of species, so on, is I might put a line saying something to the effect that this is good for the ecology or something like that, just to tell the people who may not know that caterpillars are good. You just kind of have, you could probably do that like in one line.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking that as Mel was talking, whatever short version of the sentence she said about, we care, because for the birds, right? These are, best trees to attract food for a healthy bird community or whatever the right words are. Because just instead of that line, because that line isn't really necessary.
Sorted from highest number of species of caterpillar, that out and top trees.
That feels like an unnecessary.
Yeah, I could do that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think maybe just saying that the higher number of species is good for the environment or something like that, just so,
Good for birds,
it tells, those people like myself who aren't plant experts, what that means. I think this is great. Now, Pam, are there any links for each of these species that would be helpful for somebody that you could put maybe in column A as a link or something?
Well, it becomes really kind of muddy who you link to.
Yeah.
There's a million web sources for information on trees. So I think people are savvy enough to go to Google and they really want to learn more, or go to their garden center and ask about it.
Yeah, this is a good list because I've looked at the longer list for the state and I was like, oh my God, there's like a million species of stuff. But this really narrows it down. So this is was very helpful, for the public who don't need to know, every last minute detail, but want to do this.
Also on Sustainable Trumbull's page is what not to plant. So we have a list of invasives there, top invasives in the area. So if people were really into this, there's plenty of resources available. So.
Yeah.
Where does this get distributed?
It's not really distributed as right now as much as it lives on a website, but I think we were talking about an ordinance, and then what we do with that information, I guess, is the distribution, right, Mel?
Yeah, so this would be become a 2-pager. So become. a
Yeah,
that we
that's
could-
where I was going, because I have the first 2 pages of this printed out front to back on a piece of paper on my refrigerator. And I just thought, how is a 3rd page going to work? How is this going to be an easy printout with 3 pages?
Yeah,
Well, it would be important for our land use boards, primarily because we're going through this native plant ordinance. So this would go to in hard copy, and we could e-version to planning and zoning in the wetland.
Maybe there could be a 4th page or a 1st page that, well, to make it,
Make it a 2-pager, yeah. And we just thought it would be interesting for them to visually see the trees.
I mean, if
Yeah.
you wanted to stick to 2 pages, you could just do the first 2 that exist here because the trees are listed already.
The pictures are nice.
yeah.
So, Pam, so if you stop sharing this screen, I'm gonna share, I wonder if I can share mine. Yes, I can. So this was sent to me. I had a surprise email message from David Varespi, who's on our Inland Wetland Commission. And out of the blue, he sent this message to me saying, hey, Mel, I saw that Norwalk has this guide to natives, and I thought it was really good. Can we do something like this? So that opened the door for us to work with him. He's a landscape architect. He's on Inland Wetland. He's really knows his stuff. So if he thought this was useful, I told him that we were working on something that was fairly simple. This is good, but it's pretty long. It has a great description, so it goes through all the shrubs that are helpful, focusing on wetlands. So for inland wetlands, this is a great document. Buttonbush, sweet pepper bush, silky dogwood. But again, this goes page after page after page. These are the key, and these are, of course, the keystone species as well. It's a really great document. It has like all the favorites on here. It's really well done. But it goes on and on and on and on. So it would almost be something like a spiral bound book that,
And what would Inland Wetlands do with it? Do they use these as recommendations when they're answering the petitions? Do they give these to, like, what would they do with a document like this?
so when they get an application, there's a landscape plan that comes along with it. And a lot of the sometimes the landscape designers that the developers use are not familiar with native plants. And if we have this ordinance that the town, the land use boards decide is going to be followed, that let's say 70% of plants recommended for new developments have to be native plants. This is the list. And it's an extensive list. It's really quite remarkable. So it has everything from perennials to shrubs to grasses. So it's a good thing, I think, preemptively to provide to developers to say, this is what we're looking for in our plans. These are the native plants. They're proven to work here, and they help to improve biodiversity on this development.
Well, Mel, how would this become an ordinance? And if it can't become an ordinance, can't this be on a preferred list from inland wetlands? So before they come before inland wetlands saying, here is our highly suggestive list of plants to use. So they, it's not the back and forth like we did at Moorfield Farms.
Yeah. So when they first apply, it's given to them.
Yeah, even if it's not an ordinance, it's like, you go to the website, so everybody clearly understands, just go to this, however it's listed on the Inland Wetlands website, and it solves a lot of guesswork, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, the fact that we have an inland wetland commissioner who gave us this, and it will help him, because I think he realizes that, he's got the expertise, but not everybody on the land use boards has the expertise. So this would be helpful.
Right. If they could adopt it as a document, I don't know how they would do that. But, if I was a developer and I was like, I don't want to go back and forth 100 times there's a suggested plant list. It just, it makes everybody's life a lot easier, right?
There's
Yeah,
a
I
bunch
thi-
of documents on the Inland Wetlands website on the town website. Could just probably be easily added there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything else. The less guesswork, you just get it over with, and instead of having to go back and forth so many different times.
Right.
Yeah, I think ideally it would be an ordinance, but even if it's not, if Inland Wetlands just simply told them that go to this website and this is what, if you put these things in, we'll approve these types of plants, that would make it easy, for them. Even if it's not an ordinance, but that's better if it was. But these are things that'll be great to put up, somewhere on the town website, whether it's us or Inland Wetlands, for future reference, for us or anybody else.
Mhm.
Is it make sense to somewhere in whatever we decide to put forth, put plants that we discourage planting, like barberry, or is it enough to just make suggestions?
Yeah, no, that's
Well, but if you can go down the list of things not to plant, but like I said, if I was coming before them and I said, oh, here's a list of plants that we can use, that they will basically have already pre-accepted, right?
Yeah, I think I see two lists. There's one list right here is great for a handout for developers, but it'd be good to have a list of do not plant these things, for those people who want to, remove invasive things like that. The developers probably wouldn't be that interested, but some people will be. So it's a good reference to have. One thing I'm wondering, and obviously we haven't time to do this, but on Pam's list, I wonder how those plants on Pam's list, coordinate with stuff on here. I mean, ideally, it'd be, the same kinds of plants.
There's a lot of overlap, but their list is much more comprehensive
Yeah.
with a lot more information about each plant, which is great. It's a guide. It's a guide, not a list.
Yeah, it'd be good to have, when this document, the more detailed document is up on a website, it'd be good to have that, link on the bottom, of that 2-pager, just, for more detailed information on that.
So
Yeah,
Mel,
I'm even like for the QR codes, I'm thinking if there's a place to put these things, especially along some of our water bodies of public areas, put a QR code and link some of this stuff so that people can, be a little bit educated about it. I mean, try to hit people in multiple ways about how to do this stuff and where to find, hopefully easy to read information about it. If it's easy, they may do it. If it's hard, they won't do it.
Yeah. Well, if we're expecting them to do it at an ordinance, so this is really for new developments or redevelopments, residential, commercial, industrial developments. So for homeowners, it's a different story. Homeowners, they want a lot more. So I thought this was, thank you, Pam. I think that's really good.
Yeah.
That's really nice. And what I'd like to do is kind of reach out to David Veraspi, just to see what he thinks about this. I wanted to, kind of see what Pam did first with the 3-pager and send it to David, and then maybe we can invite him to our next meeting.
Maybe he has a suggestion if we want to do like a foldable. I mean, I know we were thinking about 1 page, but if it's going to be 4 pages, maybe he has a suggestion about what the 4th page should be.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the invasives as a 4th page.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You want to plant new stuff, and then the other side is first make sure you don't plant these things, and furthermore take them out if you have them. But that might be a good 4th page if we don't have something else obvious.
Yeah. That would
As
be
long
great.
as it's clear that these are invasives and don't plant these things. That's a good idea. Can we do that on 1 page, I wonder?
Invasives?
Invasives?
There's so many invasives, but I think that there's probably a list of top 10 invasives around.
Yeah.
I just
Pam,
in my
you
own
did-
yard. I could give you a
Pam,
list.
you did a nice video, I don't know, 3 years ago, where you showed the top 10 in the area. I have 8 of them.
I've got 10 of them.
That's right. Pam was like holding up the paper with the invasives on there. That's right. That was a good, we should do that. That was in Wakeman Town Farm, I think. That was their
I think
program.
so, yeah.
She did it from her house.
Yeah.
Do we get points for the highest number of invasives?
Headaches.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But for, residential properties, invasives are pretty easily managed without herbicides. And so that's a recommendation that we should make. So thank you, Pam.
Sure, I'll make the changes and send them back around.
Okay, and I'll send it to David and get him in the loop on it. I also sent him the draft of the ordinance that was written for Newtown and Monroe. Just, if we can kind of keep consistency from one town to another with very simple ordinances recommending, suggesting native plants, it would make a big difference.
Hey Mel, since I know it's not on the agenda, but since we're on this subject, did we ever get the ordinance on goldenrod changed?
No, that was Cindy Katsky decided that there were so many other things in that document that needed to be changed that they would just hold off on it, which means it was put back onto the shelf.
Okay.
And gosh, it was just such a simple change. That goldenrod doesn't cause allergies. It's not a weed. I mean,
It's
this
not obnoxious.
obnoxious.
They called it obnoxious.
This 1970s material still floating out there. So yeah,
All right.
First Selectman's office just said there were other changes that needed to be made in addition to that. They didn't have that as a priority.
now Mel, does he look to us then to maybe adopt that document and put basically Trumbull on the top page? Would that help them?
Well, yeah, that's why we're going to kind of work with them on it, because they're going to be the ultimate users. So that's why I'm glad that he engaged us, because we can work on what it will look like. I reached out to a bunch of people in Norwalk, saying what a great job they did on the document and asking who did it. And nobody seemed to know who did it. So their land trust, conservation commission, they didn't seem to know who actually, so they're still searching for who did it. I'm not quite sure how David found it, unless he was doing a landscape project in Norwalk and someone gave this to him.
Maybe someone in Norwalk borrowed it from somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. But it certainly would be great to, because for example, what we'll talk about shortly is the tree rights brochure, and just like Greenwich was happy to share the brochure with us, I'm sure Norwalk would be very happy to share that information with us as well. So the next item is the Riparian Protection Ordinance that been kind of talking with Matt about. And so Matt, if you want to chat.
Sure, although I may need your help a bit here, Mary Ellen.
Okay.
So it's a part of the goal that at least I was tasked with is providing simple guidance to the town regarding the new riparian zone minimum that they have to establish for, and I'm pulling up a document that I'll share with you all, for commercial and industrial use. And so I give it a little bit of thought into what could a simple one-pager look like, and that would be used for town committees. I should be clear, more like town decision-making committees. Again, just a simple one-pager and not the, I'm sorry, typical 10-page PDF encyclopedias, which I think is needed, but at least just a cover page. So with that, I put together the first draft. However, I do need to work with Tony Silber's the name, Mary Ellen, who's actually on the committee to make sure that whatever content that I put together would be approved and accepted. So with that, I will pull up with zero guidance, version 1 of what it could look like. This took me about 20 minutes, but at least it's always fun to share things on these calls to give everybody something tangible to see. Here we go. Okay, so you should be able to see this Google document here. And I wish I could zoom out, but I can't within
Oh,
Google.
wow.
But it's, as I described, what's a simple, colorful one pager that the town can use to understand, as I understand, one really simple rule, 100 feet. There it is. 100
And it
feet.
is.
Okay. Yeah, so Mary Ellen provided guidance by the town of Monroe. And so I read this thing 4 times and said, oh, it's 100 feet, with some exceptions, right? Like, unless you're near like a polluting zone. So all that to say is this was attempt 1 that they can use to understand if you're near a water course, which is, stream, brook, pond, swamp, regardless of like where it is, that's a water course. How much room do you need before there's any sort of development? And it's 100 feet. Of course, a little description of why it matters. I don't think that we do enough of this. There's this sense of you have to do it because you have to do it. But the benefits of having this buffer zone, removing pollutants and other, I think we all know. And then, of course, pointing individuals to exceptions. So I am not a scientist. I shouldn't be relied on for scientific guidance around this. But if we can make it easy to understand and usable, sure. There you go. So Mary Ellen, the next step here is to connect with you and Tony offline to understand what information he would need, documentations that would make the education of this easier.
Yeah.
Did I get that right so far, Mary Ellen?
Yes.
Still learning the whole, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to,
Yeah, I think one suggestion I might make is 100 foot is actually the regulated zone, and it's water plus wetlands vegetation. You can have non-standing water at some time of the year, but if you have wetlands vegetation, then that can be construed as a regulated zone. So it's sort of like what's regulated. So if they build within 100 foot area of inland wetlands vegetation or water, then they have to obtain permission. Then there's the other issue about if you're out along a water course, having a buffer of plants where you don't grow your yard directly to the water, so you have some filtering, anywhere from dog poop in the grass to goose droppings to fertilizers and pesticides. It helps to get absorbed in shrubs and things before it goes directly into the water. I think it's a great idea to put this out there.
Appreciate it.
and just in a really simple way, I like this because, I just like the photo. And so, the reason that we're pushing for this, there's already this 100-foot regulated area for the inland wetland folks. And there has been, and that's basically the area that inland wetland manages. That's what they're all about, is this regulated area. But this focus for us right now is to go to planning and zoning with this, because, and this is what the state's mandating, is planning and zoning, to understand the impact of what they do. And so inland wetlands knows this and they follow this. This is basically their guidelines, but this new state law mandates planning and zoning, the zoning regulations be updated to look at this important setback. So let me see if, so Matt, if you stop sharing your screen, I'll pull up.
I'm sorry, can I say something before he does that? Or
Yeah,
whatever,
sorry.
fine, before you go on.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you don't have to put it back up, but just at the, I love the simplicity of it. And if what I say, undermines that, then I wouldn't want to move forward with it. But is there an opportunity as part of that to say that within 100 feet, that it shouldn't just be 100 feet, but there are some recommendations on the fact that you want certain kinds of plantings in that zone in order, it's, as Richard said, to absorb before rainwater or groundwater gets into the groundwater.
I explain a little bit more about, not explain, but that picture of Twin Brooks is beautiful, but that doesn't look like a riparian border to me.
Well, you guys are really testing my graphic art skills.
Sorry.
Matthew, I want Mickey Mouse to pop out of, no,
Well,
points
Mel
that are
has
pointing.
had,
I know how I can actually put in like little arrows on suggested native plantings or something like that to indicate what that buffer could look like.
Well, there's one, there is a riparian buffer at Old Mine.
Yes, there's
Ooh.
beautiful one. I could send you that picture. That would be really.
Ooh, okay,
And-
I can look for it now. Okay.
and Mel, you've had some good designs in the past that have been a little bit more, I don't want to say cartoonish, but like line drawings of, recommended, trees go in this sort of arrangement. I don't know if you have something similar that is like more of a schematic of the riparian buffer zone.
Yes.
If you have something handy,
Yeah. Yeah. I have a couple of them. I have some really cool, like cross-sectional ones too.
Yeah, something that could be a little bit more informative, for a visual, something that's informative that goes beyond the 100 feet. Now, if we think that takes away from the simplicity of the 100 feet, then I don't want to do that. But if we think it could add, then it might be helpful to give them just one more thing to think about beyond the 100 feet. It's 100 feet of what?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so simplicity is important. And I think, this is coming to light for us because we've had a couple of applications, as you know, that have kind of skipped over the inland wetland process. And because they were not going to impact that 100-foot area. So they didn't feel they needed to go, and they got permission to skip over. But that, as we saw with both Moorfield and, if you think about the Daniels Farm application, it's not possible to have a process like a land use process going on and clear cutting and removal of trees and beyond the 100-foot and have it not impact the 100-foot. Like at 101 feet, well, I'm going to pull this backyard, the development to 101 feet, and I'm not going to impact the wetlands. That's not the case. And that's why.
But this document that Matt put together doesn't address that. His document is just saying 100 feet, right?
Yeah, so his document's taking, the 100-foot setback, which is standard for inland wetlands, and just kind of reiterating it so that we can, share it with planning and zoning. And so the key here and why we want to get Tony Silber involved is because he sits on both planning and zoning and inland wetlands, which is great because he's got a foot in both land use boards. And I sent this to Matt to take a look at, and I don't know if I sent it to you guys, but this is from our the Pequannock River Watershed Plan, which was finished in like 2014, I think. And this summary right here, and this is really how big it is, I just kind of spread it down. This helps to give you a background of what's been going on in the town for the last, decade or so. So the town revised its inland wetland regulations in 2010 for consistency with the Connecticut DEP model regulations. Trumbull also revised its zoning regulations in 2008 and again in 2010. The town's subdivision regulations were last amended in 2000. Trumbull Plan of Conservation and Development was last revised in 2006. It has since been revised to 2014. So our POCD, Plan of Conservation Development, the one we're using now is 2014. It has to be updated now. We're behind schedule for updating it. So then it goes further to explain. Now, this was an engineering firm called Fuss and O'Neill that was hired to do this report for the Pequannock River watershed. And they say in here, it's just a great document. Trumbull's also developed an administrative stormwater policy in 2007, was subsequently revised in 2009. The policy outlines stormwater management and drainage standards and is consistent with stormwater management requirements in the town zoning regulations. So that's the key there. It's all about, it's in the zoning regulations. And it's a net zero runoff, which means all water generated in a new development has to stay in that development. That's what our stormwater management, and as we have seen, that's not happening during the development process because we see runoff all the time going into the street. So it says, while the zoning regulations and stormwater policy address stormwater quality and quantity requirements, all right, keeping all the stormwater clean and on site, but it could be revised to require or better promote the use of LID approaches and practices. That's low impact development approaches. And what this document is saying is that the town hasn't really begun to enforce the use of LID practices and approaches. And that's what our role is here. So specific land use, regulatory and planning recommendations, it's for Monroe, it should be for Monroe to further the goals of this watershed plan includes. So this is where I wanted to show you guys. These are like the 4 points that we're trying to get across to put into the zoning regs. This says work with Trumbull Inland Wetland and Watercourse to adopt a local riparian buffer regulation, including application process, management practices, enforcement mechanisms, which don't really exist. Recommend elements of riparian buffer regulation are described in similar recommendations for Monroe and Bridgeport. So they did the entire watershed from Monroe to Trumbull to Bridgeport, the Pequannock River watershed. And this just talked.
Mel, when was that done?
This was done in finished in 2014.
Okay.
So yeah, so it includes standards for stream crossings. So here, this is what we were just talking about. Retain and maintain a maximum amount of natural vegetation on slopes over 15%. That's our steep slope. So we want steep slopes to be protected, particularly those within the upland review area of a watercourse or wetland. So there's like the 100-foot setback area is also called an upland review area. And it can go beyond that 100-foot if there's a steep slope of 15%. And the other thing that we've been concerned about, prevent clear cutting or tree removal beyond the established limits of disturbance. So, and then establish no build setback areas from wetlands and watercourses for new developments of structures, pools, septic systems, etc. So these are why I'm showing you this is because this has been recommended since at least 2014. And here we are, like 8 years later. And what we're trying to, and the state of Connecticut is now the one pushing this for the zoning regulations. So we've never had a steep slope regulation. We've never done a clear cutting. We've written it. It's been sitting in limbo in the updated zoning regulations that they've been trying to work on during COVID, which they stopped working. So this is why it's important for us to kind of sit down with Tony. And I think Matt and I are going to get on a Zoom call on Friday during the snowstorm with Tony because he understands that there's this new law and he understands that there's concerns going forward for developments that this will be important to have. Because right now zoning doesn't have the tools to say, no, there's a 15% grade. You got to leave all the trees on that slope. They don't do that now. They don't have that now.
Hey Mel, I don't want to open a can of worms for the meeting, but I'm just curious. If we create this ordinance and we have these rules in place, is there a plan afoot to have some sort of penalties for not following?
Yeah, so enforcement's always is always the challenge. And that was asked, I don't know if you were on the call this summer when, last summer, I don't even know what year it is anymore. We had the guy that presented this new law, and Tony Silber actually asked that question. He said, how is this going to be enforced? And he actually implied, it's up to the towns again to enforce this with, asking for permits and for people who are not doing this stuff. But he said, I don't know, the term that he used was something about it's a violation of the public trust if these are not followed. And so he was encouraging the public to sue the town because these things are in writing and they're not being followed. And that was the implication of what he said. This is a violation of public trust if these regulations are not followed, because it impacts negatively the health, welfare, and safety of the public.
Oh.
Can you explain why a person who is part of the town boards is encouraging people to sue the town in order to change the laws of the boards? Why doesn't he just make it? I don't understand. It's not a joke. I genuinely don't understand. If this is something that he wants, because I interpreted his statement totally differently, or that question, which is, oh, there's no penalty, then we're just going to keep on keeping on.
Well, yeah, and he was like, if there's no penalty, we're off the hook. There's no pressure to change it.
Yeah, that's how I interpreted that. So, Mary Ellen, if your interpretation is different, then can you explain to me why, if that matters to him, he doesn't just do it? It's his commission.
No, so you're right. That's what it was. Tony's question. How is this enforced? Is the state going to enforce it? How are you? And the presenter, who was the engineer from the Council of Government, he's the one who said that it's a violation of public trust.
Right, but now you've got Tony in this email saying, okay, let's get it done. So
yeah, so it's just because it's the right thing to do, and he sees applications coming that are like moving close to us, like the Trumbull Center. There's an application. It's in a pre-application stage right now to put an office building 25 feet from the river in Trumbull Center. Okay, so seriously, talk about 100-foot setback. Any activity there, that's not only in the setback, that's in the flood zone.
Yeah.
Trumbull Center virtually goes underwater. So any building, any structure there needs to be pulled far away from the river, not pushing things 25 feet from the river. That's something that's coming our way. That's an application that could be just really dangerous for people. You saw the mail truck going underwater right there in Trumbull Center, right where they want to put an office building. It's just, it's crazy. So we have to stop these things early on. And I think he sees them coming. We see them coming in the pre-application phase. Just say, no, cannot be there. Cannot be 25 feet. That's even a violation of state regulations too.
Well, as it is down there, the parking lot goes basically up to the riverbank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why it floods. And then there's a slope there, right? There's the slope so everything's been going right into the river. Yeah. So I really believe that. I think Tony just knows that this is a problem, and we have to they need the ammunition in writing to say the developers, nope, this isn't our regulations. No, pull it back. And do this all in the pre-application phase so that once the application comes to them for final decision, it will be exactly as it's supposed to be. I mean, these are really simple things.
And what does it take logistically to get, when you say it needs to be in writing, like, what does that mean? Who has to approve it?
So,
Because obviously it's been now 8 years and still the same words are there, same problem. So what's the, like, how does it happen and what's the stumbling block?
well, I think there's two ways. I don't know if this would necessarily become an ordinance. I think it is a, it's updating the regulations, and that's done by a committee in planning and zoning and some other folks. So it's like a committee. Planning and zoning is approving their own update to their regulations.
So they just
I'm
need to,
not-
they just need to decide to prioritize it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it goes, yes. And so, you know what, there were things like, for example, this 15-degree slope, 15% slope, which is the same thing, that pre-COVID, this commission wrote that and submitted it to the zoning update committee. And the consultant put it in and it went right in and it stayed in. But the whole update has not been approved yet. So what we're going to try and do now is, because of this new law, which is so specific, we need to talk about just getting this update done. And, you know, the whole rest of the zoning regs can be overhauled at some future date by committee, but this stuff is important because now there's a state law mandating that zoning look at this. And so that's one reason. The other reason is we've got these applications that are coming before in zoning that are not going before in the wetlands. So the protection of the Long Island Sound watershed is just not there for these applications. So it's fairly, you know, it sounds fairly complex, but it's really simple. And all of these documents, whether it's this one, the Pequannock River Watershed Plan, whether it's the POCD, the updated POCD also says these things in it. And we have all these documents recommending the natural resource inventories, recommending, like, okay, just do it. How many times do we have to recommend? Just get it written, get it codified, get it in the documents. And
I guess that's what I'm asking. What is our role and how can we help that happen? I mean, I get all the recommendations and all the reasons. I'm just a little unclear, and maybe that's just you're working with Matt on that, but I'm just a little unclear on what we do.
yeah, so there are some examples of these riparian zoning ordinances that were written by other towns. Some are really elaborate, and they go on pages after page after page. But I think if we can just keep it simple, you know, and focus on this setback area, the slope, the tree, the clear cutting, and the restoration of the vegetation, the native plants and trees, replanting our buffers, you know, that's like the 4 big things. If we can get them written clearly.
Mel, is there another town that has, you know, why reinvent the wheel, has done it on a simpler fashion that you would like to replicate versus, you know, something that's too complicated?
Yes, there was one, I don't remember what it was, but it was Salem. I think if there's a Salem, Connecticut.
Salem,
yeah.
New York.
Hmm?
It's Salem, New York, I think, right?
Yeah, but for some reason I thought these were ones that were done in Connecticut. There were 4 or 5 of them.
So
But
could
yeah,
we-
so it'll be just a matter of us drafting, using the words that we had used in the past and just kind of push this through. So it may be just bullet points, like these 4 things.
Well, you know, I can see, well, what Matt has started, I can see a schematic that could list those 4 things. Now, remember, Mel, back in, we did this stream buffer or waterside buffer letter. I have it on my screen. I can share it. If you'd like, that may or may not help, Matt. You know, this has a schematic. This may be what Sarah's talking about. Let me just.
Pull it up.
Yeah, so it's the one pager that we worked on in the wetland. Supposed to be sending it out.
This was May. You can see, I'll just scroll down here. And this is maybe what Sarah was talking about, a simple schematic. And then a little bit more detail down here. Now, I don't know if it'll help Matt, but it's sort of the, if you have a water near you, put a buffer along it. Now, are they having any specifications for this buffer zone along water courses? Anything specific? Mel?
Oh, well, just, no, actually, it was just, mostly to use native plants. And then there's that cross section that Sarah mentioned that it is really helpful for restoring the wetland. But those are like clearly wetland issues. So it's like you're planting in the water or next to the water. Anything there is going to go before in the wetland.
Yeah.
It's these other applications that think, oh, I'm just going to start back here where this house is. And
Yeah.
that's 100 feet, so I don't have to go before in the wetland.
Yeah, no, that's why, P&Z obviously is very important. That's the last step that we can save, bad developments from. Now, do you know when they're going to, what the problem is with the zoning rigs? They're supposed to be in like 2 years ago. Now, COVID didn't help that, but do you know what the timetable is, I wonder?
Nope, I've asked multiple times, and that is our town planner who directs that, and it's still in limbo. It's just not, I don't know if they don't, if they stopped paying the consultant or what, but it just stopped dead and not proceeded. So kind of, what I was saying is that we already did the work on this. We already wrote the narrative. We already submitted it. They put it into this upgrade document, and then there it sits. So what I want to try and do is say, hey, we wrote this 3 years ago. Let's pull it out, put it into a separate document that's codified and recommended by the state now, because this is a new law from the state. So we already did the work. Here it is. Just, approve it. Planning and zoning approve it. If we have to go to town council, I'm not sure if we might, I don't know, but to get it approved. But it's simple. It's like those 4 things.
So when you meet with Tony on Friday, will you have clarity on exactly, what he wants done, and
yeah, and how to do this, what the process is. Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's just important, for this commission not to be just standing in the field, jumping up and down saying, hey, you can't do that.
Yeah.
We have to be talking and working with those commissions and those commissioners who understand the importance of it, and just push it through with them. It'll just be much easier.
And that's what kind of makes this commission fun, is that we're not a regulatory body, but we cover, a wider range of issues that we can cover and support the town on. That's why this stuff can be kind of fun. We do more than just pure wetland stuff.
Yeah, we're the only ones who just kind of oversee conservation, environmental issues on a broader spectrum. Inland wetlands are really narrow.
Yeah.
And planning and zoning is just really not up to, speed on that stuff. So let me see. Okay, so any other, we'll keep you posted, and so Matt, we'll find a time to get onto this Zoom on Friday. You gave me the times you're available, so we'll find out from Tony. So the tree replacement initiative. And so we're gonna specifically talk about the brochure, which the town of Greenwich, as you saw, had some really awesome things. And they have shared them with us and said, absolutely. The more towns, the merrier, which is great, because it wasn't like that a couple of years ago when we asked. So they're being much more open with their brochures. Let me pull up. So John Massari, who's not on tonight.
Before we get into it, I have a sort of a general question about this. I got a little confused in some of the back and forth on what the goal is. Are we, because I think it affects obviously the messaging, is the goal to try to work with UI and have a mailing that goes with their mailing, as Mary Isaac suggested, or what I understood to be her suggestion? Or is this more aggressive than, than UI would want to partner on? And
Well,
therefore we'd be more on our own.
yeah, that's the question.
Okay.
How do we want to proceed with it? Because as you know, of the brochures, this one seemed to be the one that people liked the most. Can you see that? You can't shop a tree.
Yeah.
And it is the most endearing one. It is the less aggressive one. It's not that we can't change things in here. I would suggest that we add a paragraph or something about DUI vegetation management. And if you want to find out more about your tree rights, then click to that, other brochure, which is much more aggressive. I don't know. What is your feel, rather than me giving my opinion? Does anybody have any feelings about how we should proceed with this? I'll just tell you what Fairfield's doing with similar brochures from Greenwich. They're getting the list from UI of their schedule for the upcoming year of the homes. And I know that Mary Isaac said that she already saw UI in Trumbull putting hangers on to mailboxes where they're going to be, managing the vegetation. Fairfield is following UI and putting hangers on themselves, not partnering with them, but it's just making the distribution of their brochures more strategic, because let's say they're going up Madison Avenue where UI is going to go, and just telling people in advance, what their rights are, and you can't unchop a tree, the critical zone. So this is more of a like in general about trees. That's why I think that if we added something about that you can say no to UI, people don't realize that they can.
Well, Mel, if you put in there that they carefully read the UI pamphlet, that's, UI spells out exactly what their rights are. So, I guess Warren or our tree warden has the list of what they are planning to do.
Yeah.
So why not just follow Fairfield? But how would you distribute these though?
Yeah, well, that's another issue to discuss. Do we get the addresses and mail them, or do we walk the street and hang them on the mailboxes? Drive and hang them on the mailboxes? I don't know.
Are we allowed to hang these on people's doors? I mean, I don't know. I mean, what's the rule here? Do you know?
We can hang, so from years of running for office and town council, you can hang things on the mailbox, outside the mailbox. You can't put things in the mailbox.
Oh, okay.
But so that's why all these mailbox hangers, whether it's Chinese food or the Democratic Town Committee, bearing these little bags and they hang on the outside.
So it'd be pretty strategic to be able to put it out right before UI goes or right after UI, whether it be mailed or what have you. So, it's pertinent to when they receive their door hanger from UI, I would imagine.
Now, I wonder, I can't imagine UI doing this, but if UI were to take our brochure, hang it at the same time,
They won't.
yeah.
Yeah, they won't.
Can we,
Is there- I
what
mean-
about the $3,000 in printing and mailing that you received? That's for something separate?
So yeah, that's a good point. The $3,000 that's kind of working its way through the budget process is for the next fiscal year, which starts July 1st. So we wouldn't have the money for this necessarily now. When I spoke to Vicky about a brochure of some sort, what we were going to do was do the survey first. And based on the results of the survey, people are really interested in trees or worried about trees or worried about the street scape, or then that would help to trigger us developing brochure and sending it out. But then since then, this came up, like, we were going to have to develop the brochure, whatever it might be. But then, Greenwich has agreed to share, and they've done some really great work. So we can maybe be a bit more proactive with this. And again, it's about $2,000 or so for 14,000 of them, which is the number of homeowners. But we might not have to print for it.
It only may be 3,000 households, and depending on where UI is setting up or what their management plan is for 2022.
Yeah, and this might be something that we might be able to get a grant for, or a matching grant or something like that. And so if this turns out to be, I don't know, $800, this might, if we distribute it ourselves without mailing it.
Well,
So-
it doesn't have to be one way or the other. Also, we could ask the town to put it on their features page and have it posted to one of our websites, either sustainable or conservation site. See our new brochure about your tree rights in town, and have it made available to anyone who happens to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Because this one especially, we wouldn't really have to change really anything except here. So
Yeah.
this is my question now, because now here's the thing: John can do the edits for us for nothing. He can do the graphic changes in the printing, which is great. We don't have to hire somebody to change this around. But what would we put here? We don't have a tree conservancy. Maybe we just put, for more information, is this what you're saying, Pam? Visit us at
Yeah,
conservation.
and pick a site on the town's website. And what we've done with sustainable is we've asked the town to give us a feature on the homepage. So when you go to the Trumbull website, there's a homepage with like 3 feature items. And they can put it up there as well, so people can see it right when they go there, even if they're not looking for it. It's right there at the beginning of the feature. But I'm certain, like, we have the land stewardship page for sustainable Trumbull, which I've been thinking a lot about, because it's a little bit, you have to click to get through to the assets, but maybe there's a way to feature it more prominently, either on the conservation's website or sustainable or whatever.
Well, if it goes to sustainable, you guys have a lot more links on more pertinent, equal pertinent information, correct?
We've added a lot of documents about invasives and what to plant and litter and everything. I mean, with so many things unsustainable that
Is it
kind of overlap.
Is it pretty user friendly though? I mean,
I think so. Some of
Okay.
it needs to be edited, but I mean, it's all fairly new because we've only been together for a couple of years.
right. So why not just link it to sustainable Trumbull or Trumbull Sustainable?
It's fine. It would be fine with us. I just didn't want to It's Mel's Conservation Commission's.
No, it's
Initiative.
our Conservation Commission. No, but I would love to have Sustainable Trumbull working with us on this.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and part of the meeting with Vicky last month was, one of the things that she was interested in was the tree replacement plan. So this could be like a precursor kind of intro to something bigger that's coming, hopefully.
Yeah, right. That's right. And I know that this is so this is the other brochure, How to Save a Tree. This is how to save a tree on private property, which is really, really cool. However, it's really hard to do. And see here, this goes into each one of the land use boards, what their role is, with the tree rights, that this would be fairly labor intensive. This is about talking to your neighbor.
It's also harder to edit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then here you go. Here's the decision tree.
This is,
Ours would be just us.
yeah, this is a very comprehensive document.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah, I know. It's really amazing.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Well, they also have full-time staff, so.
That you got it. That is exactly it. We don't have any conservation staff whatsoever. Let me see if I can.
Here, I just went up to our website and there's a tree page that might be a place to put this. I just typed in Trumbull tree plan and this is what popped up on trumbull-ct.gov. I think this is informative, but it's too busy, I think, just to try to get, better to get something that people can get 20-40% of the keys than they don't read the 80% of what they need to read.
I think that document, unchop your tree, and then really refer to the UI, or we have Eversource on a Greenwich, but the UI document as far as what your rights are. They spell it out what your rights are on their door hanger.
Yeah, right. Share real quickly, just this page on our website, and it's not hugely informative, but there could be, above FAQs, we could have, information or documents or something, but just a thought.
Yeah, so this document could sit there too as well.
And in there, we'd have a link to
A link to-
sustainable under documents, or we could have a link to sustainable to show, more information. I'm envisioning, sustainable, well, already has it, but, conservation has some stuff on our website, but to have, a reference section that's subdivided kind of by topic, all the stuff we've done, pop it up there. And, it can be a place where people can look for stuff.
One of the things that also, just to further bolster the idea that it would live on Sustainable Trumbull's website, is we have quite a pretty healthy following on Facebook and lots of interactions. So we could also post it on social.
Oh, yeah,
So
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely an underused resource, or link to the community. And I'll tell you, I have a new person moved into the neighborhood that lives on the lake, and I took that brochure. It's not a brochure. It's the letter from Inland Wetland and Conservation about the 100-foot setback, and just went over and greeted the person and gave them this, and I said, the town has this, and I just wanted to be proactive and let you know that there is a restriction. I just didn't want you to get in trouble doing something first. And then, so he's like, how come this isn't mailed to me? I said, that's my question. I just walk through the town looking for people who are new. And, there's two brand new neighbors here who have no clue. And
which goes back to that conversation we had several meetings ago about that little brochure that used to come in the Meredith papers and.
Yeah.
And we, nobody from that paper ever got back to me. I reached out several times, couldn't get an answer. I don't think they're redoing it, but it would be simple to print. It'd just be hard to put together.
Yep. Yeah. And people are not, it's not, the letter's not an offensive letter. It's just stating, before you do anything, like before you dig, this is before you cut. You cut, see if you're if you're in the 100-foot setback, you have to get a permit for whatever work you do. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. So how would you like us to proceed? How should we proceed with this brochure? Do we like this? You can't unchop a tree?
I like that brochure with a reference to make sure that you follow or read the UI's document on, what they're planning on doing and what your rights are.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see 1 or 2 lines right up front that you have tree rights. And if, UI or anybody wants to cut down your trees, you can say no, something like that, just so they, right up front, they can see that, oh yeah, we do have rights, and here's telling you, what some ideas of what you can do. Now, I wonder, does UI, we know the pathway they're going to follow, I guess, but would we have the addresses? I mean, are they going to drop these off? Do they just drive up down the road and drop them on every mailbox, or is there an actual address on that list, I wonder?
Well, I'm sure they have a list of addresses. It depends, the route that they're taking, they pick a street, whatever that geographic area is. I'm sure they have all the addresses, and then they just go house by house, and they, to my understanding, put the door knockers out and set up a time and what they plan on doing. But it's clearly stated in the UI document what your rights are. So.
Yeah. So that's a great point.
I like the idea of being more aggressive in language around you can say no, because you have rights or read your right. I mean, it sounds somewhat vague, and if people aren't really thinking about it, they may not really understand what that means. But just to say, if UI wants to chop down your tree, you can say no. Just something about you can say no.
Yep.
I think is a little bit more straightforward about the point that we're trying to make.
And that's why I think you can't unchop a tree it kind of as a hook a little bit, kind of grabs you a little bit.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
people
yeah.
may not even be aware that that's an option to them.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, say a year ago.
Yep. They're not. Okay.
I mean, would we have enough? I mean, with a few of us, is it doable that we would drop these on mailboxes? I think Tim might have been saying, are there 800 or are there 3,000, mailboxes to put these on?
Yeah, so that's what the list, when we get the list for the 2022 plan for UI. And even, it sounds like they've already started putting the flyers out. So, it's going to be, I really, my gut feeling is I think that we're going to have to hang them. I hate to put them into like a plastic bag and hang them, but we can
make sure it's plastic, that it's biodegradable.
Yeah, biodegradable bag with a hole, or put a hole in the brochure. Yeah, so I guess strategically we can work that out. But so next step is, we'll make some of these changes that we discussed onto the brochure, have John put them on there, and then we'll see. In the meantime, go from there. Is anybody want to see if they can get the list, the UI list? My feeling is, here's how I think we should ask. I think that we should take this brochure and ask George Estrada. It's this, because he really is a tree guy. He has helped protect some trees in the past. So say here, we want to inform the public about this, but we just want to do it strategically and ask for the UI list.
Do you have a contacted UI?
Uh, there is one apparently, but
That Warren gets the list?
Warren, yeah, gets the list.
And does Warren work for George?
Warren kind of works for George. There's George, Dimitri, Warren.
Oh, Warren works for Dimitri. Okay.
So, but I have to say, Dimitri did really like those brochures. He really liked that. So I can make an attempt that way. If he says no, I'll go to George. Okay, so I'll do it. I'll do it and I'll get back to you. Okay, so next item, town survey on sustainability. Do we have any discussions on that tonight? Sam?
Yeah, so I have updated the survey and I'll send it out after we're done. I made it, actually I can just maybe share briefly, although I certainly don't expect anybody to read it while I'm talking. But what I did, my goal is to get it to 10 questions and maybe we want to cut more from there. The questions are similar to what I shared last time, kind of starting very broad, that includes more than conservation and our primary focus, just to see where it falls, where natural resources falls in terms of other things that people are going to care about. I did attempt to try to get the word trees into every question. I may not have been successful, but to the point of having more ways to talk about trees, if that's one of our priorities this year. Then it focuses on natural aspects of Trumbull, some options to kind of get at what they care about, how important, and this was all with an eye towards being able to use the information to go to town organizations, whether that's planning and zoning or inland wetlands, or for more funding or any of these. But the idea was to get information that town organizations are going to care about. So that's why a lot of this is focused on aspects of the town, asking people what they already do. I think that's one that we could cut if we decided this is too long. What concerns do you have? And this list may not be long enough, but we can make the the list more comprehensive, but try to focus on obviously areas that we're interested in. This is another one I think we could cut, which is but this is where I said the rest of the survey is really about getting information and data points to be able to go back to the town in order to inform their thinking. This was more resident focused, so that we could prioritize if we want to do education for town residents or through volunteer groups to understand the sorts of things that they might be more interested in learning about. How do they get their information so that if we do want to distribute information, we know how to best do that? It may be moot. We may just, do all of the things. So this also is a question we could cut. This is a new question that I added from the last time we talked, which is, how important is it to you that preservation of Trumbull's natural resources are a part of town planning for all town Trumbull departments, with the idea being, on a 5-point scale, everybody's going to say it's important. And so this is sort of a softball to try to get a data point that says people care. And then these last two I think are really important, which is why I'd be willing to, cut earlier questions. Obviously, I decided that tree replacement and the riparian corridor watershed protection are the two most important things that we want to accomplish in the next year. This is the impression I got from reading, from our previous conversations, but that basically we would write 1 to 2 very short, very pithy, well-worded sentences about the two programs, and then ask people, how interested are you in, the town pursuing this, or, whatever, however the words come out, but very directed questions on our top 2 priorities. So that's 10 questions. Typically surveys are, 30 seconds to a minute per question. So there are definitely, as I said when I went, there are questions that I would cut in order to prioritize these 2, which might take a little bit longer to read and take. So I still believe, so that's the content of the survey. I'll talk next about ideas on actually executing and distributing it. I will send this out after for feedback, additions, changes, all that. Are there any immediate thoughts that I should incorporate before sending out? I know it went really fast.
Yes, sir. I wonder if there's some words I think you have it in there, but dealing with UI and cutting down trees. I know you had to see, you have too much
Yeah, I have
cutting down.
replacement trees cut or fallen down,
What?
He's got to talk about everything.
but I could, yeah, we could we could add something in here about cut, we could specify UI, or if we think that's necessary, or we could leave it vague. Because if we specify UI, then we also want to specify, I saw that quote in the Greenwich, you can't untrop a tree. The person was saying that their landscaper did it without permission. So, if we're too specific, I don't know that we want to be too specific.
I would leave you, you just leave it general. I would, yeah.
Looks good.
The only idea would be just to put, I don't think there's any legal issue, but put UI in there to kind of put a bug in people's thinking, since UI is going to be chopping stuff down in some parts.
And that may be something we talk about,
Yeah.
maybe in tree replacement, as we get that language, we can say something about the reasons that you may need to replace a tree. In situations,
Yeah.
maybe a sentence is something like, in situations where you need to replace a tree because, X, Y, and Z, Trumbull is, putting together, documentation on how to best replace it with natives and the appropriate size for size and type for the local echo.
Yeah,
I don't know what the words are yet, but
yeah, the right
Yeah.
tree in the right place.
right tree, right place. There you go. And I mean, UI could be mentioned there if we decide that we want to do that. But we could just say, trees that are cut down for variety of concerns.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a start on the content. In terms of distribution, I know Richard had reached out to Sustainable Trumbull, who it sort of sounded like maybe didn't want to get super involved in this, which is fine, although I'm sure when the time comes that, no.
That's not the case.
Did I misunderstand? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think you needed to come and sit through one of our meetings for 2 hours. I think that was the overarching feeling with the group. But one or two of us is happy to sit down with you and just talk about some of the priorities that we're working on. So you don't have to sit in. I mean, they're 3 o'clock on Mondays.
Yeah, when I realized the time, I was like, oh, that's tough.
So I'm happy to talk with you offline about just some of the priorities that we're working on now. And then that way, so it had nothing to do with not being involved. It was just not taking up too much of your time.
I did look through some of the last few months of meeting notes. And so I picked up some of the things like, you'll see compost here. So I did pick up a few things, but would love to have more input from what Sustainable wants so that we can get greater benefit from this, as well as Sustainable could be, it sounds, you said a lot of people go to your Facebook page. Sustainable can be a good distribution arm.
So just drop me a note and let me know when you're available, and I'm happy to spend some time on the phone with you.
Okay. In terms of logistically making this happen, SurveyMonkey is a free tool where you can write surveys and you just send out the link. I kind of looked back at the Parks and Rec pool survey, and they had used SurveyMonkey, so that's 2 points makes a line. So I decided SurveyMonkey will be it. It's well known, it's reliable. What I wasn't sure of, in terms of distribution, we can obviously, mail it out to, email it out using, it'd be interesting to find out how the Parks and Rec actually got the email list because I just got an email, so I took the survey. I don't know, Mary Ellen, if that's a question I could just ask Dimitri how that happened.
Bill Chin might know.
I'm sorry,
Bill Chin might know, because there was a question that came up with Sustainable about email distributions and how people get on them. So Bill Chin might be a good place to start too.
Yeah, there is on the town website, there's a email distribution. You can sign up for 50 different town organization emails, and I'm sure that's how I got mine, was by signing up for things that come from Parks and Rec. There's also, I don't know the viability of putting, I don't know how this works, but like putting up signs at, public town properties like town hall, like the library, like the senior center, places where people would congregate. I think Richard's going to cheer when I say this, but when I looked at other towns' websites on how they distributed these kinds of surveys, they put up QR codes, and the QR code, people could just, so if you had at the library and one of their, one or more of their cork boards or their display board, bulletin boards, a thing, take this, 8-minute survey or 5-minute survey, we'll get it down to whatever, about, town conservation. And then people can just take it on their phones easily that way. But I don't know how things get posted in town properties.
Yeah, I'm not
Anybody
sure.
else knows?
I'm not sure we even do that really. I can't think of anything I've seen, but then again, doesn't mean we don't do it at all. And so there's the idea to have them go on a website and fill this in.
Well, that's
So
what it
you
is.
can-
This is done by a website, yeah. So the way it works is I would program it through a free tool, and then it's just a link and people can click on the URL, and the URL takes them to the survey, they answer the questions and they hit submit, and then it's all done and it's all tabulated, and then I can go in later and see all the results.
So between Sustainable Trumbull, Keep Trumbull Real, there's a Facebook page for the trails, the Quantic River Valley Trails in Trumbull. There are certainly a number of social media vehicles that a lot of people subscribe to in town. And you can say, share with your neighbors. We'd love to hear what you think.
Okay.
And I think the QR code would be a great, either a link or a QR code in those places. At the trailheads, there's
The trail, yeah, when you said the trail, that made me think of trailheads. Yeah, the park. A lot of those parks have kiosk and like boards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not
no-
sophisticated, but you can always just, I think John created QR code adhesive things for me to put on the pollinator pathway signs. And they're not weatherproof, but they're weather resistant. So I think something like that you could just do.
Right, it doesn't need to last forever.
Right.
Like at a bulletin board, you can, like with QR code monkey, you can generate QR code on a piece of paper, have you type in some words, just paste the QR code there and hang it in a bulletin board anywhere.
Okay.
Even some of the
Yeah,
kiosks and parks, it would get wet, but you could put it like one of those plastic sleeves and just, tack it to a board. It may be more complicated, to get permission, or just, I don't know if you just put that up on some of the kiosks we have in our parks, just do it and then, let them say you can't do that.
Ask for forgiveness. Okay.
Right. I didn't say that, but
So that's great. I think this survey is great. I think this is
yeah,
this is the way to go. And really, I would just feel better about it if we did do it along with the Sustainable Trumbull team.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. They have great outreach too.
yeah.
Yeah, and I do like the idea of having some kind of a notification on the trails, because those are the people who would more likely be happy to do this survey.
Yeah. On that topic, I was just thinking, I also seem to get emails occasionally from the Trumbull Nature and Art Center. Do we know somebody there who might be amenable to partnering and helping push out an email about this?
Yeah, so the chair of Sustainable Trumbull is
Kevin.
Kevin
And I work there.
Malone is
Yeah.
he's the head
Okay,
of.
so that's another distribution opportunity. Great.
And that'd be actually a good resource, Sarah, to, talk to, Kevin. If you don't have his email, I could send it to you.
I'm sure I can find it on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good. So that's the 3 organizations driving this to Trumbull Nature, Trumbull Nature Center, Conservation, Sustainable Trumbull.
Yeah.
And this is good. And we should talk to, when we get it all buttoned up, talk to, Vicky about it going out. That, and when we figure out how to send it out, that would be great. So this is, what is this? We're still in February. So do we want to shoot for like, maybe April or May to get this out? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think April is reasonable.
Okay. We can send it out on April Fool's Day.
It may not be April 1st.
No. How long, I think I asked this question, I don't remember what your answer was. How long do you keep this open?
I mean, you never have to close it. I would say we're probably going to get the bulk of the responses within the first 2 weeks. So I think, we send out emails and reminders or, post some on social media, and then I think we'll get a flood and then do it again a week later. And then I think after about 2 weeks, you're going to get what you're going to get. Some more things might peter in. We may want to think about the timing now that I'm thinking about my own schedule and traveling for spring break. A lot of people who we will want to take this probably have children and maybe away for a week. So I don't know exactly when the Trumbull public school break is, but I could certainly look it up. My kid actually goes to a state school, so we might have a slightly different spring break.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a good point to look up spring break. Okay.
So I wouldn't want to I wouldn't want the 2 weeks to be during that time, because people will have other priorities, whether they're traveling or not, they'll have other priorities and they'll be out of their normal routine. And you don't want to do something like this when people are out of their normal routine.
Mhm.
April 15th through 22nd.
Okay,
Trumbull Public Schools.
then April 1st it is.
Sorry.
April 15th to the 22nd. That's spring break. Okay, good to know. All right, excellent. So that's great. Thank you, Sarah, for all your hard work with this. I'm very excited about doing this. This is really great. Okay, so the next topic is community gardens. We don't really have an update on that. I did submit a report to Vicky and Dimitri, and that is still pending, so we don't have any updates on that. Now, the Zoom speaker on stormwater management. So Matt and I had seen this guy, Trevor Smith. I heard him speak again for the Connecticut NOFA, which is the Northeast Organic Farming Association. He did a talk on like green infrastructure, and it was good. He speaks for like a solid hour, which I think he might be a good speaker. I would have to talk to him about doing a talk for the town on stormwater management. But he's good. I think he's really good. I don't know if he would charge, but I also did get a list of some other speaker recommendations, people who could talk to the value of trees managing stormwater. So I got from the Fairfield Forestry Committee a couple of names. 1, 2, 3. One of them is, she actually works on staff as an engineer in Fairfield, Emmeline Harrigan. And so it might be kind of interesting to have somebody local, because we want our town staff to be part of this conversation. So so I think that's something maybe I still have to work on. I want to go through these other tree speakers. Who knows, maybe we'll have 2 different speakers. We'll have one on trees and one on stormwater, which it's certainly easy enough to set up these Zoom lectures. And I wanted to also offer that for Aspetuck, I have probably 9 lectures coming up, these lunch and learn lectures, all the way to the end of April. And so those are things we could clearly share on our sites, and people can click into them. They're free. Most of them are free. And so, just share the resources that are out. It doesn't have to be a Trumbull, thing, a Trumbull lecture. So I've got on invasive species, I've got a bunch of people talking about invasive species and native plants. A lot of cool speakers coming up. So once I get that schedule, then I can release it to us, and then we can put it on our site and through social media to get more folks from Trumbull to come on those lectures. So that was kind of the end of the new business sustainable Trumbull meeting. I don't know why I have that on there. I guess to review that, I don't have an updated inland wetland application.
Yeah, I have a question. Can I interrupt? I have a question about that. And that is, a couple days ago, I went to the inland wetland page to look for the agenda and the applications, because they're, often there, and they weren't there. And I went again just before this meeting, and I understood that the timing of our meetings to be the Wednesday before their meetings was based upon giving us the opportunity to discuss the applications and provide any appropriate input to the applications. If that thing is posted, how are we supposed to fulfill that commitment?
That is a great question. And so all of us are on the distribution list. So when the applications are ready to go for the inland wetlands meeting, they are then sent out to all of us.
And I do get them.
But lately it's been after this meeting. So
I don't remember exactly when. I know I always look at them, and sometimes I attend and I try to attend the meetings if I can, their meetings if I can. But do we have any way to request strongly that they send them out before our meeting? Otherwise, we can't fulfill our function.
I think legally they have to have it all put together. So they have deadlines for the developers to get certain things in by a certain time, so that then they can get it out to the commission. So I can ask Colleen. So Colleen Lombardo is the person who sends it out to us. If there is a way that we can get it, even if we just got it like this morning, I have a feeling for their next week's meeting, it'll probably come out Thursday or Friday. But it's not that we miss the opportunity to talk about this stuff, though, because if they're new, if it's they have new business and old business, just like we do. So there's time kind of baked in. So we'll have a new business that maybe we'll miss, that will show up Thursday, but that new business has to be presented formally to inland wetland, see what they think. And then, by our next meeting, we can.
I guess, but I think about it like we're talking about with planning and zoning with, for example, the building at, in Trumbull Center is, if you can get ahead of it and say no at the pre-application, then you cut it off early. Whereas if we're already a month behind, then it becomes harder.
Yes.
Yeah, Mel, do you see the P and Z applications at all?
Not at all. We don't get them at all. And that's herein lies the problem.
Now, any of us, if we, typically what happens in inland wetlands is they'll get an application and it takes, weeks, months, or many months sometimes for the process. But any of us go into engineering in town hall and ask to look at, development X, plans, and we can take a look at those, ourselves. You just go into engineering and, ask, I want to look at the plans for this or that.
Mm-hmm.
So that can be done if you have a curiosity.
Yeah, so we, being included in the distribution of the inland wetland reports, applications and reports, was something we asked for a couple of years ago. And so they do it. And we used to get actually the hard copy in our mailbox when we were doing things live.
I didn't even know we had a mailbox.
Yeah, we have a mailbox in town hall, so we would get like the whole paper version of it wrapped up with rubber bands so that we could, at our meetings, so that we could roll out the plans and look at them.
I almost forgot about that.
But, you know,
Yeah.
Mel, like the process worked at Moorfield Farms where, you know, we were notified, we met, we reviewed, they went back, put another application, and then I guess they eventually pulled it out, Mel, correct?
For, about the trees?
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
So the process actually worked, right?
it worked,
Yeah.
it worked, it worked. We protected those trees.
Occasionally, we have had some wins on some of these things. Maybe not enough, but it has happened once in a while.
No, but I think that one, we just kept at it and at it and at it, and they had the right people. And the developer just said, fine, just keep the trees up.
No,
Hey, Mel,
remember
we
that?
have a hand raised in one of our attendees.
We do? We do? Oh, Janet has her hand raised. So here's the trick. I don't know how, Janet, to get you on here is,
Let's see.
okay, who's, Barbara, who's the overseeing us now? I see he's on there. I see the town of Trumbull.
Paul Brown
Paul.
is moderating.
So Paul's there behind the shield somewhere. He would have to bring her in. Paul, are you there? Can you get Janet Epstein on so she can speak?
Yeah, I don't see a menu, at least on my, on our, and I don't see an, let's see.
Yeah, I mean, if we can't get her on here, she, you can, if you want to type it into the chat, or if you type it into the chat, we can read it and ask the question, because I think Paul's not chat. Let's see. Oh, no. Yeah. Oh.
Oh, you know what? Let's see. I'm looking at,
So Janet says, I raised my hand quite a while ago, so it would be backtracking. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Janet.
Sorry. I didn't notice your little hand down there. Not a problem. Okay. Here, you can email me and hopefully, or we can talk tomorrow. I'm sorry about that. You know what I'm going to do for our next meeting? I'm going to have an invitation as panelists sent to you and Mary. So this way you're on our side of the wall.
and that's exactly what I did. I copied the emails and I had the wrong, I clicked on the wrong link, not paying attention. So that's, and from my end, I can't see on the non-controlling end. I mean, I can see participants, I can see attendees, and I see Mary and Janet there, but there's no way I can get to them.
No, that's where we would need Paul. Okay, so sorry about that. We'll get back to you, Janet, on that. So yes, okay, so for the inland wetland applications, I'll ask Colleen again if there's any way we can get at least something earlier, if not the documents, just the agenda. And planning and zoning as well. There's a different clerk that manages that and have us get on their distribution list also. So good point, Sarah, thank you. And so pollinator pathway updates, we don't really have any other than I wrote here that the native plant sale opens up April 1st, and pollinator pathway is now a 501c3. So that's not any here nor there. I thought that would be a benefit that, we could get grants with them now. They can get grants but, because we needed a 501c3. So I think for future, we'd have to work with Trumbull Nature and Arts, who is a 501c3, if we were going to do something like brochures where we needed some funding and a match. So our next meeting is March 30th, 2022. So in the meantime, I'll keep you in the loop on a couple of the pending things here. Hopefully we'll have some of the documents updated by then for native plant, for riparian, tree replacement brochure, and maybe we'll have a, kind of a close to a final version of the survey by the next meeting, which would be cool.
Just a real quick thing on QRs is I went around like 7 or 8 locations, and I'm going to mock up a thing for John, because he'll be making the sign, just to kind of get an idea of what he thought about where I suggest we may put a QR. These are mainly at, trails and parks and transfer station. And indirectly through Dimitri, we're going to present the QRs on the Parks Commission on March 14th at 7 o'clock.
Oh, good. Who's good? You and John?
I'm going to invite, there's only 4 or 5 of us on the QR. So I'm going to invite John. I'm going to ask him to make one example. And then I'm going to bring my laptop so he presents some ideas. I want a photograph of the location. And then where I want to put a QR, kind of mock up maybe how it would look on the sign, and just, present that idea.
So I'm glad you brought that up. So just in advance, know that there's, I think you were pretty clear actually in your communications that the content of the QR code or whatever linked to would be something that the content would be written by Parks, or you'd work on that content. I think some folks were confused. They thought that we or you or Sustainable was going to write the content and about their parks.
Yeah, and actually probably almost half of these, maybe half even, we already have town content. And now I want to ask you, you mentioned about Old Mine and that riparian buffer or something, a photograph.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to have one of the 5 locations that I pre-selected as possibility. I've added some more, but the erosion control thing we got, word on before my time in 2013 isn't looking exactly impressive. So I limited that, but the buffer, if there's something physical part on the ground that looks good, would that be something that would be warrant a QR sign, showing what can be done to protect the environment or not?
So the sign there, that's 3 sections.
Yeah.
That John Watson did. I didn't even realize that did not have a QR code, because I remember him talking about it back then. So the content for that would be, so 2 things. I would recommend maybe that you talk with Don Watson about that.
Yeah.
He's got that whole narrative with all the pictures. And also I came across a presentation. It's a PowerPoint presentation that Don developed that I had in my files that showed some really great before pictures where it was just like, had just been dredged. And so it was like nothing there. It looked like the moon. And then the plans in the presentation, and then the planting day, the planting event. And then just like 3 years later, how much it had grown up. So we've got a really great progression of photographs.
Could you email me that PowerPoint?
Yeah, I'll email you that. And then Don Watson, he's got super organized files. And I know he would be delighted to work with you on this, because he can help to provide the content for the QR code for Old Mine.
Okay, good. It just has to be on our website, and through Bill or somebody else, it can be uploaded. I think one suggestion on our website, I don't know if we can do this, but there's typically, who's on the commission or whatever, some bullet points, and then the FAQs. I'd almost like to have something called information and then group that, by, a few, topics. For us, it'll be trees, things, topics like that.
Mm.
So if we had a content, we can upload that content, but it just has to be on the town website.
Mm-hmm. And I think related to any of our parks and trails, Parks is going to really want to be involved in drafting the content of that.
Yeah.
Then I don't think they'll have a problem. Apparently they had started doing this, or Dimitri had started doing something like this years ago, and it was never finished with QR codes. So yeah, so it would be great to just kind of dovetail this with
Yeah.
that. So I'm glad
To
you're
me-
doing it for them. That'd be great.
Yeah, Demetrius said contact Parks Commission, which I did, and we're on the agenda, and we have a draft agenda which we can change, but you have kind of approved that. So we have, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes maybe, to present an idea. But the only goal is to get a few out there, people can see them, and then hopefully get the interest in the town. Then there would be some grant money potentially, but the town would have some staffing requirements potentially, unless we, volunteer to put these up, which is not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So there seems to be, an interest. And we'll see what happens with it all.
Yeah, I think it's great. So I'm glad you're on the Parks agenda. That's a good thing. Excellent.
And
Excellent.
I asked a couple of people when we were walking the other day, I said, what would you guys think if we did this? And, oh yeah, that'd be great. Because at the, Trumbull center part of the Valley Trail, there was a guy and his wife or girlfriend, and they were kind of looking at a map. And then I noticed where the maps used to be in a little metal holder on the kiosk, there's nothing there.
Mm.
So really, you don't need a brochure, you need a QR code one time. But I asked them, would you like that? Oh, I'd love to have a trail map. Just,
Mm.
So, I think there's interest so I can vision Sarah, having, a survey QR on there as well.
Yeah.
And actually, Sarah, I can, have that as one topic. Put that, if you wanted to, I don't see why you couldn't go to the meeting if you wanted to, at least in the audience, for the survey. But I'll add that as a QR code possibility if you're interested.
Yeah.
Take a piece of paper, QR code, got to have a website, which you do, tack it up there, staple it up there to the existing, all these kiosks we have. The most we have on some kiosks, if we have 0, it's just blank wood, but some we have a big sign saying park sticker required,
Yeah, I don't know so you go to Parks and Rec in order to get approval to put something on one of those boards?
Well, that's the thing. I'm going to present the QR ideal world. They say, yep, we like, your model of the QR, and you can attach them. Yeah, go ahead and go at these 5, 6, 7 sites or not. But that's the goal. And then, if John made the signs, I mean, literally if 5 minutes less at each location, we can tack them up.
Right.
And also at Don's, at Old Mine, there is this place for a reasonable sized QR
Mhm.
below there, so we could fit them there.
Yeah, I'm sure he would love that. That's
Yeah.
good. Well, excellent. Thank you, everybody. At 9:02 p.m. on the nose. So thanks. If you have any other questions, concerns, feel free to reach out to me. And so we'll see you next month. And thanks for all your hard work and updates on all your, and Matt, I'll get back to you with a Zoom time on Friday with Tony. Okay?
All right, thanks, Mel.
All right, take care. Have
Good
a good
night.
night, guys.
Happy snow tomorrow.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
Bye-bye.